Hi, today we're discussing a real classic, boys and girls, so buckle up for this one. Your Highness, everybody, the hit 2011 comedy fantasy hybrid starring James Franco and Danny McBride, directed by David Gordon Green. Why am I reviewing this, you may ask? Because I want to, and it's of immense import.
You want us to twist what is long with our sensitive hands?
He wants us to jerk him off.
So whilst I was reviewing Land of the Lost, which is a film that blends action, adventure, sci-fi with Will Ferrell comedy, I remembered that Your Highness also existed as another one of these strange mashup movies that were prevalent in the late 2000s to early 2010s. This was a niche subgenre that existed in my formative years, so obviously I would end up seeing quite a lot of these strange films. They don't really exist anymore, and that isn't something that we need to be melancholy about, because some things we don't need to look back on with rose-tinted glasses. I think we can comfortably agree that we can allow these things to stay dead. Theatrically released comedy movies as a whole aren't as prevalent these days because most new comedies come in the form of these streaming releases. Also, when we talk about this hybrid, this juxtaposition between comedy movie and genre movie, we do have to make an important distinction, because we do have films these days that mix these genres together, but it's done a lot differently. And these contemporary films that I'm talking about are primarily action-adventure, just with a shit ton of postmodern humour sprinkled in. So Marvel and Argyle and stuff like that, and this is a trend that also sucks, by the way. A lot of genre films can't seem to play themselves straight. They always have to have these trite lines of, OMG, did we just fight a dragon? Did that really just happen?
Are you saying Santa Claus has been kidnapped?
They always need to deride the silliness of the concept instead of just embracing it, but that's another thing. This video isn't about all that. No, this video is about Your Highness, everyone, and like Land of the Lost, Your Highness is primarily a comedy movie. Comedy first, genre film second, made by a bunch of people who are comedic filmmakers. They're working with a much smaller budget than your average blockbuster. Previous to this project, another notable film from this director was Pineapple Express, so if that gives you an idea. Pineapple Express, which was a renowned stoner film with an action shooter twist. David Gordon Green would also go on to direct that new Halloween trilogy, which I haven't seen, as well as The Exorcist Believer, which I also haven't seen, but I've heard is absolute dog shit. That's beside the point. To be a bit more specific as to why I'm reviewing this film today, I find Your Highness, or films like Your Highness, to be quite fascinating projects. They're these weird creations from a bygone era, almost like a time capsule film. I liked covering Land of the Lost because it felt like one of those films that none of us had thought about in years, yet it existed, and it was like, what the fuck was that? That film I used to watch a bunch of times when I was a kid, like, what happened to that? And don't get me wrong, it was a bad movie, but there were other factors to it that made it an interesting case study, because again, it had that mix-up of tones. I just like these weird, crooked, stupid films, not these like so bad it's good, but just like these in-between, mediocre but also interesting.
I have summoned you here specifically to help me stop an evil madman who has already conquered my world.
Your Highness also piqued my interest because of Danny McBride. I really like this guy, he's very funny. When I revisited this film, I really wanted it to be funny just on his behalf, really. I was hoping to like it, or at least find a few specks of charm or talent. So I embarked on this rewatch, and what happened next will shock you. Now fuck that, this film sucked. Like, it did suck a lot of balls, it wasn't good.
Everyone in the kingdom wants to suck your dick. No one wants to suck mine!
But I wanted to talk about it because it has this inherently retarded identity. It's just a fucking stupid movie. Regarding the comedy, which is quite an important component, you might say, I don't remember laughing too many times in this film, despite how much I wanted to bro down with Danny McBride. It just wasn't enough. McBride didn't bring that many good jokes to the table. The vast majority of the humour is made up of crude, immature sex jokes about penises, boobies, and sex, which doesn't necessarily have to be unfunny. With crude humour like this, it all depends on how you do it. Like, sometimes when you take vulgarity to such ridiculous extremes, like with a Sacha Baron Cohen film or a South Park episode, it becomes hilarious. There are ways to make stupid, dumb, immature joke funny. There are ways to do it. This film, I don't know, it all just fell flat for me.
To the fucking.
They never really stood out, they're not multi-layered, they're not even that, like, creative, they're just like, booby, dick, penis, penis.
The cold air licking your tits.
The film starts with a whole gag about Danny McBride sleeping with this dwarf king's mistress and he's being hung for it. And the big joke is, look at all these little people, they're all angry, it's a whole village of them and he's pissed them off, he shagged the wife, how funny. And it's like, okay, if you want to do an offensive joke like this, at least make it clever or multi-layered. But here it's just basic, one note and boring. It's like, there's nothing to it. I don't know, a lot of comedians love doing this where it's like, the joke's gonna be it's a small person, it's a dwarf person, it's gonna that's funny, isn't it? And it's like, I don't know, who told you this was funny? Like, okay, at least they're employing a lot of dwarf actors, and maybe the dwarfs are all having fun and they're just in on the joke and they don't mind it. Like, I don't want to speak for them, but just a shit joke. To be fair, there is one little joke where the thing is pulled and the floor collapses beneath him, but because it's built for a dwarf, it's not deep enough for him to actually die. So he just lands on his feet, and I thought, okay, that's an alright joke because I didn't expect it, I didn't see it coming. Bravo, I guess, but not. It's fine, it's alright.
Why are they upset? All dwarf queens are unfaithful.
We then get this special opening title sequence, which is all parchment themed, and I didn't mind that, it was kind of cool, but then there's like another boob joke, and it's like, yes, great, I was missing that. Boobs and dwarfs. To be fair, this is funny, but not because of the film itself, but because of how fucking stupid it is. Imagine you're watching it with a friend, it's the humour of the situation of watching this ridiculously crap film made by professionals for a good amount of money who thought, yeah, these jokes, these ones are good. This one's a golden one.
To the fucking.
So to give you a general synopsis of this incredible Tolkien-esque narrative, you have James Franco, who plays Fabius, who is this heroic prince, the first in line to be king. And then you have his douchebag, deadbeat younger brother, played by Danny McBride, and he is the main character of the movie. So he's just a big loser, a big asshole, and James Franco is the one that everyone admires. So James Franco, Fabius, has this new bride who gets kidnapped, and the two brothers have to embark on a quest to save her. And hilarity ensues.
I do hope this adventure is not too stressful or boring. Either way, I intend to get properly fucked up if no one disagrees.
So if it wasn't apparent already, the whole gimmick of this film is that it's a traditional fantasy narrative just with a ton of dick jokes. Ooh, swords and wizards and spells, but also Danny McBride's gonna say fuck.
Oh, fuck me.
Oh, fuck this. It'll all be serious and sensible and knightly, and then someone will start talking about sex. It's just an amazing juxtaposition. Because fantasy characters don't normally say rude words.
And if your vagina is anything like my hand, there will be no problem.
I think this film got a total of 2 laughs from me, and when I say laughs, I mean mild chuckles. One was this bit.
Courtney, will you make funny faces to entertain me? No! Never triangle face. I hate triangle face. It scares me.
I don't know, I guess I like Danny McBride acting like this pampered, idiotic child. There's a bit more to it than haha butt sex, I suppose. And there's also this bit.
Adios, motherfucker!
And that wasn't clever or anything, but something about an elf-like Toby Jones falling to his death, like the image of that paired with Danny McBride nonchalantly saying, adios, motherfucker. I don't know, something about that tickled me. Yeah, Toby Jones, the renowned actor, is in Your Highness, and I think that is brilliant. I don't know how this came to be, but I'm happy that it did.
Stupid Julie, I'll show him.
To be fair, the film is quite a stacked cast. Like, you've got Danny McBride, James Franco, Broey Deschanel, who was a lot bigger back then. You've also got Charles Dance, who plays the father of the two brothers, the king. You got Justin Theroux from Mulholland Drive playing the evil wizard dude. You got Damian Lewis. Oh, and of course Natalie Portman, who plays the love interest to our main character Thaddeus. A lot of really good, but typically serious actors, which can be really funny when you place them in films such as these. movies. Charles Dance is doing his usual Charles Dance shtick, and he does it well enough, but it is more so a pastiche of himself.
Please tell me that you completed your simple task and secured the treaty signed by the Lord of the Dwarf Village.
But at least he's playing it straight, and I appreciated that. Zoe Deschanel, I'm always tempted to say Broe Deschanel because I'm just so used to that name now after that YouTube channel. She's kind of flat in this, kind of mid, not gonna lie. Justin Theroux, again, another serious actor. Honestly, a bit of a letdown, really, because I wanted him to ham it up. He's this professional actor that's known for these dramatic roles. He had the potential to be a really fun, amusing, larger-than-life villain, and he didn't really do any of that.
To the fucking.
He just ends up being this dispenser of crude jokes about him wanting to fuck Zoe Deschanel. Oh yeah, that's another part of this fucking movie. His whole evil plan in this is that he wants to have sex with Zoe Deschanel on a certain night of a full moon, and it'll birth a dragon that he can control and use to take over the world. Zoe Deschanel is this special virgin and he needs her to do it. So his master plan, and what turns out to be the final centerpiece of the movie, is him raping Zoe Deschanel. And it's just awesome, I guess, isn't it? It's obviously supposed to be a joke, like, aha, I'm so pervy, I'm so weird, I want to have sex with you, haha, sex funny. But because there's so much time devoted to this specific plot beat, it just kind of gets weird. Especially near the end, because like, oh, we need to stop him from doing this. But I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it too much, like I'm not supposed to be taking it too seriously.
The fucking has begun!
Again, it's hilarious that Toby Jones is in Your Highness.
Complot! Fool!
I like how stupid they made his hair look. He looks like the adoring fan from Oblivion. There's one joke or plot element even where it's revealed that he doesn't have a dick, like he's this dickless creature, this strange like freak. And that's kind of funny in like an extremely moronic way. A brilliant joke and obviously a shining moment in Toby Jones's career. And I wonder how he looks back on that. You know what? He probably thinks it's funny. That's fair enough.
Julie has no dick!
Danny McBride as the main character was somewhat likable just because of his uniquely assaholic nature.
I will drown Courtney in the shallow fucking pond right now if that means fair is fair.
I don't like that idea, sir.
It's typical McBride, like he was the reason I was interested in this film in the first place. It's just unfortunate that the vast majority of the dialogue wasn't that amusing.
No, fuck it, it's over.
James Franco, you know that guy, I think he's been done for something, he's been cancelled. I think it was deserved, this one, though. He's okay in this, I guess. He didn't really get any laughs from me, though. Him, McBride, and Portman are all doing these ridiculous English accents.
I can think of no one else I'd want by my side as I sing my vow passionately into her eyes.
Sounds tedious and boring.
I have no time for your maiden pleasantries. My quest continues to the north.
They're all clearly just taking the piss, there's not that much effort going into it, and I guess that might be funny to some people in like a shit-posty way. Natalie Portman, who at this point in time had just got done doing Black Swan, doing this joke role where she's not even trying.
When I was a child, you enslaved my father and slaughtered him in this very arena.
The Courtney actor, he's the squire to Thaddeus, he wasn't bad, he was actually leaning into the fantasy vibe, taking it a bit more seriously, being a bit more hammy. He felt like he belonged in the world, more so than the other characters. He's not a superstar, so he actually has to prove that he can do a good, competent performance. He's taking it more seriously.
I think you misunderstand the situation. He constantly gazes at you with such eager eyes.
And that's what I wanted overall. I wanted less low-effort irony and more animated, enigmatic performances, like hammy shit. Not focused so much on modern sex jokes, and it would have been a lot funnier if the comedic performances were actually good. Like, Natalie Portman is bad in this, not funny bad, just bad. A bad comedic performance, objectively bad. Just completely missing the mark. She sounds like an Oblivion character.
As we are on the same path, I suppose you boys may follow me to Morderstarten. From there I seek navigation and march alone.
Where Your Highness differs from a film like Land of the Lost is that when Land of the Lost has its genre movie moments, it leans into it in this hammy way that's charming. It's silly and Will Ferrell is still there making his jokes, but it is somewhat taking itself seriously in certain aspects. I'm talking more so about the Enoch guy and Anna Friel's character. Your Highness, on the other hand, never stops taking the piss, which I guess could work for some people and even me in certain cases. performances. But my biggest problem with that is that the execution is so low effort, comedically speaking. Most of the main performances are just like, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's not a serious film. Like, that's a shit excuse. Yes, you're a comedy movie, but you're a poorly made comedy movie. These comedic performances aren't good comedic performances. Whether it's serious or not is beside the point. Most of the comedic lines, which of course dominate the vast majority of the script, feel like afterthoughts, which makes sense seeing as though it's said that a lot of this is ad-libbed. You know, ad-libbing, the laziest form of dialogue writing in cinema. It's not even writing, it's just, you know what, we don't even need a script, we'll just go in and just fucking wing it on the day and it should turn out right. Unless you're a fucking savant who can improvise the craziest shit, don't do it. The Princess Bride, there's a film, doesn't take itself seriously at all really, but the performances in that are immaculate. Or another slapstick movie, Aeroplane, I know it's the only example, it's like the golden example, but that has a fantastic deadpan performance from Leslie Nielsen. Comedy is not an excuse to not put effort into things.
You have a fucking deal.
Your Highness does have a couple of running gags that are meant to be making fun of the fantasy genre, all of the tropes and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff about homoerotic male-to-male friendships that you do see in these fantasy films. Like those platonic relationships that are always unironically very heartfelt, where it's like, oh, I love you like a brother. Oh, embrace me, good sir. They'll make a lot of riffs about that, where they'll have Danny McBride and James Franco accidentally say gay stuff to each other, or stuff that sounds gay.
Oh my God, I've missed you so. Oh, God, great. Who gives the warmest hugs?
Me, of course.
I love you, Thaddeus.
This is like the first thing everyone thinks of when they turn 12 and rewatch Lord of the Rings. They're like, haha, Frodo and Sam are kind of gay if you think about it. Like, look at the stuff they're saying to each other. Literally everyone at some point in their lives thinks that about the fantasy genre, but these guys are geniuses because they also came up with it. Ignore me, it's an astute observation of the genre.
I loved you as a man loves another man. Oh.
Zooey Deschanel's character is sort of a parody of the clueless, innocent princess archetype. You're like, oh, I don't know anything, like Princess Peach. Like, what the fuck? I have no agency. I'm a feminist. Yes! Fucking hell! Free the nipple! I do hate women though. Fuck women, man. But her character's been in captivity all of her life, so she knows nothing about worldly customs. She doesn't even know what a fork is.
My heart's desire, what is this?
No, that's we call that a fork. And you use that for your food. Yeah, right there. Fucking idiot.
All this stuff is alien to her. She's no idea what the fuck's going on, and she's kind of retarded, and it's kind of funny. That's actually quite funny. She is quite flat for the rest of the film, though. You have all these scenes with her and Justin Theroux where the two of them are just sat in a room delivering boring sex jokes to each other. There's like no spice to the performances at all.
Or I'm going to have a dragon soon, which I'll be able to control, and it's going to give me ultimate power. The
weird thing is that the director David Gordon Green described this film as an entirely self-indulgent dream project for the 11-year-old in me. Now this film does not read like a passion project straight from the childlike mind. It reads like an effortless shitpost, in fact.
To the fucking.
Yes, to the fucking.
Apparently he said that he didn't intend for the film to be a spoof of the 80s fantasy genre, but rather he wanted him and McBride to, quote, put our stamp on it and bring our sensibility to it, but work within the genre. So it almost sounds as though he wanted to celebrate the genre of fantasy, but there's barely anything in this film that indicates that intention to me, at least tonally. The fantasy elements don't take themselves seriously, at least long enough to actually become genuinely immersive. Like, surely if you wanted to celebrate this genre, you'd want it to be immersive in a fantasy way.
Belladonna, my dear, why don't you delight us with your story?
To give it credit, the production design's okay, like the sets aren't too bad. There were a few uses of practical effects instead of CGI, which is more in keeping with the 80s fantasy vibe. But then you'd also have these generic action scenes with crappy CGI, which look like shit. This doesn't shout childlike wonder, it shouts let's half-arse the fantasy aspects and hope it's funny enough so people don't care. With Land of the Lost, there was some immersive value to that, some good cinematography, some fun action set pieces. This did have an arena battle with this giant snake hand monster, which conceptually was pretty cool. I guess this was the sort of thing that Green was on about when he said dream project. There was also a minotaur, which was all practical, and I appreciated that, but oh wait, it's got a penis. Isn't that great? Ha 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 ha!
Alright, everybody look. Take it all in. All right, come here.
You can't really have all of these modern dick penis jokes in this fantasy film and expect the immersive value to hold. And by the way, I wouldn't really be arguing this point about immersion if Green hadn't said that that's what he was going for. Because he said he didn't want it to be a spoof movie, and it's fine to be a spoof movie, it's fine to be something that doesn't take itself seriously at all, it's all just one big joke.
We didn't really want to spoof those movies, we just wanted to make one of those films.
But apparently that wasn't what he was going for here. He was trying to take the fantasy a bit more seriously. I don't know what he was doing. Like, Hot Fuzz is a comedy that homages these action cop films, but the action in that is really good and entertaining. So when you watch that, you get the experience of watching a good comedy and a good action film. David Gordon Green thinks, oh, I'm homaging the fantasy genre just with a little comedic twist. You're homaging it with this overlit cinematography that makes everything look like an SNL skit, are you? Again, sets and locations are all solid. It's the way that it's shot, the formulaic way it's shot that fucks it. It's too bright. It's like you can see it's obviously just a set. Oh wait though, hold your horses, Bacho. There's this cool Jim Henson-esque creature over here that they included. Isn't that kind of a cool homage? Oh, hang on a minute. It's also a sex pervert that wants James and Danny to wank it off. What a great homage to the fantasy genre. You know what, I didn't laugh whilst watching this, but it is actually kind of funny just describing it to you guys now. Just this weird creature that wants a hand job. Kino.
We are not going to do that.
If it's for the quest, we will do what needs to be done.
There's also a brilliant joke about how James Franco was molested by this wizard when he was a kid.
When I was younger, we'd take our shirts off and jump on the bed.
Playful secrets.
Don't tell Father.
I found this 3-year-old review from a guy from The Guardian, and he loved this film, and here's what he had to say about that molestation joke. When Thaddeus learns that the lifelong kinship Fabius shares with an old soothsayer has a creepily sexualized side, it's a statement about the traumas men train themselves to suppress or ignore in the name of masculinity. You know, I'm not even arsed, that's his opinion, more power to him, you know, he loves the film, fair enough. This is a great movie. There is a sublime moment in narrative writing that occurs near the end of the film where the characters need to open a passageway and all of the instructions are in Dwarvish. Oh no, what are they going to do? But then Danny McBride steps forward and says, I know Dwarvish, because if you remember at the start of the film, he had a few run-ins with the Dwarven people, didn't he? Because he like shagged the wives or whatever. And we all just thought that was a crude joke about dwarves, but no, it was actually an amazing setup to this payoff. It's just excellent storytelling. Incorporation, reincorporation, and we didn't even expect it, did we?
You read dwarf, Thaddeus?
I have had encounters with those people, yes.
You could learn a few things from this film, you film students, with your fancy fucking lectures about Fantastic Planet or whatever. The final shot of Your Highness is Danny McBride saying, let's go kill this bitch, and then it cuts to the end screen. It just unceremoniously ends with character saying funny swear word because they didn't really know how else to end it.
No, fuck it. Let's kill that bitch.
They didn't really have a climactic scene to use, so this is how it ends, just a flat shot of two people talking in a room. That's the last scene, the final scene. Oh, it's a comedy, it doesn't matter, it's fine, it's funny, it's whatever, it's a shitpost.
No, fuck it, it's over.
You know, the immediate film I watched before rewatching Your Highness was Michal Haneke's The White Ribbon, so just to give you an idea of the kind of contrasting quality I've been experiencing. I just like that pairing, The White Ribbon and Your Highness. Amazing, amazing, just a synergy of excellence. Don't watch this film, but if you do, all I'll say is watch it with friends, because in that context it is actually quite funny in certain areas. Just like a stupid, fucking ridiculous movie that you can take the piss out of. It's not the movie itself that's funny, but the surrounding context of just how retarded it is. Aside from that though, no, not watching it, I'm not fucking with it anymore. Fun reviewing it though, was really fun reviewing it. It's always fun reviewing stupid films like these. Danny McBride is likeable at the start, but the good grace starts to diminish when you realise that all of the jokes that he's going to be supplying you with are kind of mediocre and unfunny. 'Tis a shame, because this is what probably stifled his comedic career, at least in film. He should have been the lead in a lot more comedy movies, but that's all in the past now, and at least he's had some success with Eastbound and Down and stuff like that. And also, film's kind of weird, it's all centered around rape, whatever, awesome sauce.
And remember to fucking subscribe.
I'm not watching Year One, by the way. I don't know if I can do that. That's a film I know is just going to be awful. Year fucking One. Also, I want to shout out the BBC comedy show The Detectorists, because Your Highness actually has two British cast members from that show, weirdly. I haven't seen all of the Detectorist episodes, but I've seen a decent amount, I guess, like a few. But it's just a charming English show about these downtrodden people. It's really miserable, it's really dry. Typical British humour, you know, that kind of thing. Just everything's just shit and grey, but also kind of funny and kind of like heartwarming, I guess. Not overbearingly miserable, but just maybe Office level, but a bit more optimistic than that. Yeah, it's a nice little show. I'd recommend that.
You having a wank? You having a wank? You having a wank? The throat. You having a wank? You having a wank? You disgusting fat fuck. You having a wank? You having a wank? The throat. You having a wank? You having a wank? Disgusting fat fuck. You having a wank? You having a wank?